Well, hello, and welcome back to that thing we like to call Curless Mania, where we talk all things pop, rock, and prog. I'm very excited to welcome back to the channel. It's been way too long. We were just saying this. It's been too long. Mr. Eric Porter, how are you, Eric?
I'm great, Tom. How you doing?
Great, great. We were just saying it's dead of winter, man. You know,
Reason.
in the Midwest and the East Coast, we're just being inside all the time. So, might as well do some more talking about music on camera.
Absolutely. Keeps it fun.
Absolutely keeps life interesting. So we're here for a couple different reasons tonight. So, first on the agenda is we're going to do a recap because we were talking about Beat, which we both saw in concert. And Just a tremendous concert. And we wanted to kind of do a quick recap of that. And then after that, we are really switching gears from prog into more like pop rock, which I mean, I talk about pop and I don't talk about pop. I haven't done that many pop videos, but I do love pop music. I love pop rock. And I found out that Eric loves it too. So we were talking about this. I don't know, I think we were talking about my band, Autoliner, and we were getting a lot of comparisons to Jellyfish. And Eric's like, "Oh man, I love those records." And I was like, "Oh, I do too." And so we're like, "All right, we got to do a Jellyfish video."
So hopefully people who see jellyfish and don't know, stay tuned because you're going to hear about a great band for sure.
Yes, yes. So after our little beat discussion, we're gonna do a quick battle between the two Jellyfish albums, which are Belly Button the debut, which I couldn't find, it's driving me crazy. There you go, there it is. I have it somewhere in the house. I could not find the CD anywhere. Versus Spilt Milk, the second record. There we go. So yeah, I need to get the Omnivore reissues with the bonus tracks.
This one I have live tracks on Belly Button. There's five additional. I think they do No Matter What, Jet, Live and Let Die Into That Is Why, I think, or something like that. I have to go back and look at them, but
Nice,
and
cool
I know they
covers.
came out with a box too that had demos and everything else that I never got, and I don't know why I never got it, but
Yeah,
um,
yeah. And their demos are just, we'll get into this, but their demos are fantastic.
absolutely.
Oh my God. The demo sounds like a finished record. But anyway, so yeah, so let's talk a little bit of let's cast our minds back to concert land back. So you went and saw Beat and you saw them where?
I saw them at the Egg in Albany, New York, and actually Pete Pardo went with me.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Um, and I believe it was October 21st. I did go back and try to look at that, Tom, just to see. So it was like I said, I think October 21st. The Egg, which is probably my favorite venue in Albany. The terrific shows, terrific sound. It's probably the best sounding venue I've seen. It's a smaller, probably, I think it's like 1,000 seats, somewhere in that range.
Mhm.
Um, but just absolutely tremendous sound in that place. Just
Oh,
a
nice.
terrific venue.
Nice. So great. So it sounded fantastic.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Um, just unbelievable. So yeah, so were you was it sold out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. How close were you? Were you pretty
Well, again, it's a small,
matter?
like I said, the
Yeah.
1,000 seats. And what's
Yeah.
interesting is we saw Tony Levin's brother. Pete Levin was in the audience, and Jerry Murata, who I don't know if people know, he's a drummer. I think he's played with Gabriel and some other people.
Yeah. Played
They're
on
kind of,
security. Yeah.
yeah, and they're Woodstock guys, so I'm sure they're buds with Tony. I mean, obviously his brother, but
Right.
Jerry
Right.
Murata as well. So we caught them in the audience, but yeah, sold out show. I love, and don't take this the wrong way, I love that there was no opener.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, just launched right into the band, and you know, this was a show without a question. It was my favorite show of the year,
Mhm.
and probably a show that I always look forward to live shows, but I think this when we heard this was forming and that they were going to be touring, um, just the excitement level just was, you know, I
How
don't know that I've been that excited for a concert. Let's put it that way. I love going to shows, but this just for some reason was just kind of another level,
no,
me
I
in
felt the
terms of the
same way.
anticipation. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt the same way when I heard about it. When I heard about the when I saw the announcement, I was like, "Oh yeah!" Like I'm psyched. And
Yep.
sure enough, like I didn't hesitate to buy tickets. Like I didn't care how much they were. I was like, "I'm going.
Yeah,
Not,
exactly.
I'm not missing this. This is like this is some of my favorite. I love. I told we talked about this on a different episode. The '80s King Crimson. I just love it. And I was like, that's all they're doing. I'm like, oh my god, I'm sold. Let's
And I
go.
guess if you think about it, Tom, I mean, when you listen to the 70s versions, because obviously Crimson went through a lot of iterations, this is kind of, we talked about pop at the top of the episode and Jellyfish, and that this
Mhm.
is really as complicated and complex as the music is, it's pop. I mean, these
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
accessible, catchy melodies. I mean, maybe we credit Baloo for that. I don't know.
Think so. Yeah.
They're shorter, concise songs. And don't, again, I love the longer stuff. It's all great. But
Mhm.
this really seemed to me like, a complete reinvention of the band. And I know that they had talked about, and this is obviously not talking about the concert, but going back, they had actually talked about calling themselves Discipline, I believe,
Yes.
to
Yes.
not have that King Crimson association because the music was so different, I think, from what they had done previously.
Yeah, that was the original name of the band. Yeah. Yep. So, and then they finally just said, "Oh, I think maybe somebody at the label or something said like, you should just use King Crimson. Just,
Right?
just
The damn label always,
they're exactly.
right?
We want to maximize our investment here. Let's put a name brand name that people know on this thing. So yeah, but yeah, I just it was great. I mean, I saw him at the Masonic Temple in Detroit, and it was funny. I pulled up, and this huge line of people around the block, and I'm like, oh my god, are you kidding me? I parked and I walked up to the venue, and it was kind of cold, and there was this huge line, and I was like, what the heck? Why is there a massive line like around the block? So it took a while to get into the venue. That was the only thing that was like sort of a little off. I was like, oh, come on. And then I finally got in there, and it was the rest of the night was fantastic. So
How big of a place is that, Tom?
I think it's around the same. I want to say
Okay.
maybe 1,500,
Okay.
that maybe a little bit more. I don't know, 1,700, something like that.
And did you see them? Was it before or after I saw them?
I think it was after.
After.
I think you
Okay.
saw them before I did. Yeah. So, but you had said something about, because you're like, I'm not going to give it away. Because you're like, it was great, but I'm not going to give it away. But it was funny that, the first set, Vi looked like a guitar slinger. He had like that low brimmed hat on,
Mhm.
and he kind of looked like Stevie Ray Vaughan at times. Like he had the strat, and he had that big brimmed hat, and he had got his head down, and he was playing. And I was like, oh, that guy's such a stud, you know?
I think what's kind of important about that, not that he's an amazing player. Probably them trying to think about who are we going to get to replace Robert. And I think
Right.
this is a compliment to the band. Was I think what hit me as I was walking out, and I know Pete and I talked about this. I said, and this is not a slight on anyone. I didn't spend any time saying, geez, I miss Fripp or I miss Bruford. And that's not a slight on those two. I thought Danny Carey and Steve Vai were absolutely phenomenal. And I'm sure they worked their asses off to bring this show up to what it was. But, to me, it's a compliment to the players, Blue and Levin. And I think Fripp kind of gave his blessing. So they just made an incredible choice. I thought Danny Carey was terrific. I thought Steve Vai was out of this world. He had that same look. He wore that hat at our show, and he kind of had like a zoot suit.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
So he had that kind of look. But boy, I mean, he was like you said, he definitely seemed very focused, and I'm sure for those parts,
You have to be. Yeah.
you have to be. But
Yeah.
he really started to get more engaged, I thought, too, as the show went on. He was kind of interacting more with the crowd and him and Adrian. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but boy, I tell you, I mean, you don't, you know, it's rare when something completely exceed your expectations, and I think this show did that to me.
Yeah, it was. I was just blown away by the set list. I just couldn't believe how great it was. Like I just felt like and there are moments we were talking about how this incarnation of Crimson is a little bit more pop oriented, a little bit more, like you said, hooky, a little bit more melodic at times. But there are moments where they go into cacophony a little bit, and yeah, there were a couple songs where you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about this one. Like this one's pretty out there. But they would come back and then they would do something like Heartbeat or they do, and you'd be like, okay, now we're back to it. Was just fun. It was a really cool show.
Because
Really
for
cool.
me personally, I love all three records. But I have to say, and I think this was like the second or third song they did, like Neil, Jack, and Me broke out, and that's probably my
Yeah,
favorite. That's my favorite track
love that song.
of that era. And boy, I was just like, okay, take off because now I'm here.
I'm
And
already happy. I'm already happy. Yeah.
exactly. And even I think, and I'm sure the set lists were the same. Maybe they switched a few things around, but I know for the encore they came back out and we got Red. Uh,
Yes, they did Red for me as well, and I was like,
so
so I went crazy.
yeah,
I was like, the guy next to me was like, chill out. I calmed down, but I was so excited that they were doing Red. I was like,
yeah.
what's up? Yeah.
But absolutely fantastic. I mean, I picked up. I meant to bring it out, but I've got the Sheltering Sky live disc, and I do have the Absent Lovers that came out at
Yes,
the
I have that.
time.
I have that as well. Yes. Yep.
And
Yep.
that obviously those were representations of that era of the band. Um,
Yep. Yep.
but I just think I mean I don't know how it got started. I guess I didn't go out and read about who or why kind of got this going. I'm
I
assuming Adrian
think
probably played a
Adrian.
big part in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but they did. I'm not going to say they did everything I wanted to hear because I could have sat and listened to all three albums and every song on every
That's
album.
true.
But
That's true. Yeah.
um, didn't leave disappointed. Was absolutely amazed at the musicianship, which we know is top notch anyway. And just I just thought Baloo looked like he was having the time of his life up there.
He did. He did. He looked like he was having so much fun. I agree. And
So
he still got it. He's still killing it, by the way. I mean,
and
everybody, all of them do.
they do. And what's funny, Tom, is I just saw a post today. He had carpal tunnel surgery.
Oh, I
And
didn't.
he mentioned that during the tour, he was having some trouble, like a little numbness in his fingers. And he said,
Oh,
um,
interesting.
he said he didn't remember being affected too much during performances, but he said a lot of times, like
Like
pre-gig stuff,
afterwards, or yeah,
yeah, like you said, afterwards, maybe, on a day off where you kind of notice, oh, I'm not feeling it. But
like
I was really surprised to see that because I'm like, boy, that dude did not miss a beat when I saw them.
he
So
played great when I saw him. So yeah, I didn't have any complaints. And to your, like watching Danny Carey play too, that I was like I had new respect for him by the end of the concert. I was like, okay, that guy's kind of a monster. He can really
he's
play.
he really is. And
Um,
I'm not a Tool fan. Well, I shouldn't. Probably never given them much of a chance, but I haven't listened to much Tool. Um, But when I heard the name, I'm like, okay, they're not going to pick, some slouch. And I just came away completely impressed with the guy. I thought he was terrific.
yeah,
So
you're not going to get that gig if you're not
no,
top notch.
not at all.
No, so yeah. So anyway, I think that both of us gave that concert a 5-star review. It was just awesome.
Easily.
It was awesome. And I had heard that we were talking about Adrian who put it together. I think Adrian did put it together, and he said something about it taking like 2 years to put together. So it
Wow.
was like a labor of love for him. Like he really wanted to do it. Maybe that's why he was so happy on stage, because it was like, finally we're doing this. Like,
Well, and I guess think about it, Tom. Levin's always busy. I'm sure Vi and
yeah,
Carrie have their schedules. You've got to get everyone's schedules together. And
yep,
it's probably, and then the rehearsals, getting, what are we going to play, learning the
yep.
song.
Yeah, it's a
So,
long process. And he said started at COVID. He started during COVID. He started like
oh,
making phone calls,
gotcha.
and it was like then COVID kind of delayed everything a little bit. And then you're absolutely right. I'm sure that was just getting schedules. Well, I'm on tour with Peter Gabriel next year. Like, it's
Right.
like, it's trying to get, like you said, Tony Levin, that guy's so busy all the time. So, but yeah, awesome, awesome concert. Loved it. Loved every second.
So hopefully we get something of that caliber for 2025. I mean, that definitely for me was the show of 2024 without question.
It was for me too. It was.
Awesome.
It was my. It was. I agree. I was. It was awesome.
It's
Loved
been a slow start too, Tom. I don't really have anything on the calendar yet. So
got nothing. We got nothing. And
yeah,
it's Jan. It's almost February 1st already. Come on, people,
right.
let's go. No, I'm with you. I haven't seen much that's come up that been like, oh my god, I have to go see that kind of thing. Well, but hopefully, I'm sure something will come eventually. Something will
But
show
yeah,
up.
well, I think summer tours are probably the big thing too, right? So you figure
The
I'm
weather gets nicer.
yeah,
Yeah.
stuff's gonna start happening. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, well, excellent. So, I hope that if you saw the show, let us know. By the way, let us
yeah.
put it in the comments. Let us know what you guys think or what you thought of the show. We both loved it. So, okay, we're switching gears into an album battle now. So, which is very different from what we were just talking about. Um, However, I would say musicianship wise and writing wise, this is just very top notch. This band is just one of those kind of unsung bands, right? I mean, it's one of those bands that like never quite really made it big, and you just don't know why. You listen to the albums and you just go, "Why didn't this band make it?" What's your take on it? I mean, just timing.
I I mean, I've read a lot about them, and I think we had even talked about some of the stuff we've watched online, and it's brought up. I think Belly Button was 1990, Spilt Milk was 93, grunge was coming.
Yeah,
Grunge
yeah.
was grunge had
Grunge was
hit,
there in '93. Yeah,
and they were probably about as far left field of grunge as you could be. I don't know. It's weird. Did you ever get to catch them live?
I never did, but a good friend of mine did. Brian, who I was in the band with, he saw them for. I think
Nice.
he saw them for the Spilt Milk tour.
That's that's what I saw. I saw the
You
Spilt
saw?
Milk
Oh, you
tour.
saw them?
I
Okay.
did. I saw them in June, and it was I don't want to say dumpy because it was a rock club in Albany, Albany, New York. Bogies, if anyone is watching this, and it's no longer there. But
Right,
I remember, I remember the show, and I remember, and it was with Eric Dover and Tim Smith.
right,
We're
right.
playing with them.
Yep, yep.
But, it was weird for me, Tom, because probably outside of the Beatles and my love of, I guess, probably just growing up with the radio in the 70s, I know people label it yacht rock or whatever, but I love AM and FM stuff from the 70s, the pop music. I mean,
Sure.
you're
Yeah.
probably going to laugh, but we went away last weekend and we were doing some family stuff in Massachusetts, and my niece said to me, "Hey, do you know Little River band's playing this summer?" And I'm like, "Really?" Like, I love some of their tunes. So I'm like, I'd go see them, right? Um,
Hits, a lot of hits.
I just feel like it's when you read about them, they had played with some other things. I think there was like a Beatnik Beach before
Yes,
that
Beatnik
Manning
Beats
and
was the band
Sterner were
before.
in.
Yep, yep.
And it almost sounds like they had a lot of label interest. So the industry knew about these guys. Why the word never got out, why people never really, I remember getting introduced to them because my bass player brought, and it was the CD at that time. So he brought the CDs, like, you have to hear these guys. He knew I like pop stuff, but I mean, Beatles and that thing. I don't have a big pop collection because it's more like, I'll just throw on Apple Music and play that stuff.
Right, right.
I remember hearing this record, Tom, and these records, I don't want to be a homer for this band, but I hold these two records in the highest esteem. I put them right up there with anything the Beatles have done, which it's not to be sacrilege. I don't know why these records just hit me. Um, and I've always thought the same thing you did. How was this band not bigger? I can't put a finger on it except timing.
Yeah,
Did they
timing.
just come out at the wrong time?
Yeah,
Is you know
yeah, timing. I mean, I mean, Brian told me that when he saw them live, they were just tremendous. I mean, did you enjoy that? He said they were great. He said they
I
were
thought
great.
they sounded great. The vocals were great.
Yeah.
And
He's
if
got
you
the
go out,
harmonies, great harmonies live. Like that
great
helps a
harmonies.
lot.
They reproduced because I think Manning did a Spilt Milk, and we'll talk about the records. Maybe has a lot more. I don't want to say orchestration, but I don't know a better way to put it.
Oh, it
And
kind of
Man-
does. Yeah, I agree.
Manning did a lot of stuff on keyboards. So Dover was holding down the guitar parts. And a lot of that stuff that you might think you wouldn't hear live because they couldn't reproduce it, they
Hmm.
were doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
sounded fantastic. And all four of them sang. So Jimmy
Right.
Smith,
Right.
Dover, they all sang. They were terrific. They were just fantastic. And if
Yeah.
you go out, and I'm sure you've checked this stuff out because I've been on a binge since we said we were going to do this.
Same here. Same here.
There's a lot of acoustic stuff, like little session
Yes.
things and stuff.
In
And if you go out and
stores.
watch
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
and I think when you read about them, they talk about, man, we were talking about demoing songs and things, and it sounds like Manning and Sturmer did a lot of this stuff where it would just be acoustic. They'd put the vocals over the top, and those songs sound just as good demo wise as they do on these final albums. You hear what they want to do.
They sound great. And Sturmer's just such an amazing vocalist. He's a great lead vocalist. And then the fact that he's standing up playing drums while he's singing too, is just like impressive. I mean, it's pretty cool.
And
You know,
I find his drumming pretty unique, and maybe that's due to the standing up, but he's got it's like where his accents come in and things that he does. He's not all over the kit because it was a very small kit,
yeah, it was a pared down kit, right?
like
Yeah.
a cocktail set, they call it or something, right? Is that what it's
Something
called?
like that. Yeah.
Um, but I really like his drumming. I think he just has these little accents, these little tiny fills, and they work perfectly in these songs. They're terrific.
Yes, yes. Where he's doing that King is half undressed thing where he's just and he's singing lead while he's doing it's pretty cool. It's great stuff.
It really is.
So let's jump into Belly Button real quick. I'm just gonna do a quick rundown.
Yeah.
Belly Button was their debut album. It was released on Charisma, which is a Virgin. It's it was like a subsection of Virgin or something. And to Eric's, as Eric mentioned, there was like a bidding war for this band. I mean, there was like many labels were coming after them when they put together this demo tape. And kind of shopped it. People were like, whoa, like this is great stuff. Who is this? And they were on Beatnik Beach was on Atlantic, so they were already on Atlantic, right? They were on a major label already, so they had, they were out there. They probably had contacts or whatever. So and maybe they had sent a tape to Atlantic before or anything else. Maybe that's what started it.
Could be.
Um, but um, but anyway, it was released on July 27th, 1990. Recorded at Schnee Studios in Ocean Way in California, in Los Angeles, and produced by Albie Gluten and Jack Joseph Puig. Albie Gluten was known for producing Saturday Night Fever.
Ah, okay.
That was his like big claim to, I mean, he did a lot of stuff. He did stuff with Eric Clapton. He has a pretty big resume, but his big huge album was Saturday Night Fever. And
And I
then
don't think, not to interrupt you, Tom, you can't discount what those two brought because
no,
those
no,
records are terrific sounding.
pristine. Yeah.
Yeah,
There. It's like you can eat off the table. It's like it's just so there's the production is you're right, is unbelievable. You can tell there's a lot of care taken on this record.
agreed.
So anyway, it made it to 124 on the U.S. charts. The singles on the record were "King Is Half Undressed," "That Is Why," "Baby's Coming Back," and "I Want to Stay Home." So it's four singles. That's You can't say they didn't try to break a single. There four
True.
released. The band we talked about was Andy Sturmer on drums and vocals, Roger Manning on keys and vocals. For the first album, Jason Faulkner on guitar and vocals, and then Chris Manning on bass, who was Roger's brother, was on
Yep.
bass. So this is the band for the first record. Um, they went on tour for a year to support it. I mean, they were out on the road for a long time. And they made pretty kind of expensive videos. I mean, you watch the videos for King Is Half Undressed. I remember seeing that on MTV at the time, being like, "Who is this band?" Like they're wearing these top hats. They look like cartoon characters. But I was
Well,
like,
didn't Baby's Coming Back had like what what was the cartoon they kind of used? They had like a dune buggy. There was like
Yes, like
cartoonish videos and stuff. So yeah, they were pushing these guys. They
Hanna
spent money.
Barbera. Yeah, look like Hanna,
Yes.
and they. I love the babies coming back videos. Great too. So they're really good videos. Like they're really well done. And I remember hearing King is Half Undressed and being like who is like wow that's a cool song like it got my ear like right away. I was like who is this band? I really like this song a lot. And they got phenomenal reviews when this album came out. The reviews were just glowing across the board. Everyone was like this band is excellent, this is a band that you need to check out. Like this is the yes they have a little bit of retro tendencies, but they're updating it for the 90s, and they're just the writing and performing is just top notch across the board. I mean, it got very glowing reviews, but it just didn't. I mean, it just didn't really sell in huge numbers, and I think it had a lot to do with. I always say the first album was released at the end of hair metal,
Uh,
right? And
yep.
then the second record, grunge was in full swing. So it's like that was what they always say, but ultimately that you always say timing there's always this talk. There's a lot of videos on YouTube about this, like why is this album didn't sell, or why that one sold, or why what grunge killed this band or killed that band. It's like who knows why ultimately, who knows, but anyway, but this is an excellent record. What's your take on Belly Button generally? what's your
Uh,
what's your feeling?
my only problem was when we get to the end, what to pick. I love both of these records. Now you mentioned two of the other songs. You were talking about King is Half Undressed, and we talked about Baby's Coming Back. That is why, to me, is a perfect pop song. It
Oh
is an
God, yeah,
absolutely perfect song.
yeah.
And in terms of a ballad, that I don't necessarily want to say it's a ballad. I Want to Stay Home is beautiful. It's
Oh,
a
I Want to
beautiful.
Stay Home is like one of my favorite tracks. Yes.
I I absolutely love it. And I often look at the songs and I try to say, okay, this one was on Spilt Milk, but I'll compare it to to me, like kind of like Glutton of Sympathy might be like I want to stay home for Spilt Milk. And
Yes. Yes.
New Mistake to me is that as why, because I think New Mistake is another like absolute, and I know I'm talking about the wrong
Yeah.
album,
No,
but
no, it's okay. It's okay. We can talk about both. It's all right.
I if I go through the song list, Tom, I mean, I don't think there's a weak song. And I'd say that about both records. Um, I like the fact that the band they can be really punchy. I mean, when you come out of the gate, what is it? Man, I Used to Be opens, and it's very
Yes.
slow and methodical, but it builds, and you kind of build. This one kind of gets that orchestration, right? And I'm just trying to look at the tracks here because I don't want to miss anything, but I don't want to over talk on some of this. But
Yeah, I'm just
um,
looking at track listing. I'm sorry. I'm just looking down to find the track
like
listing.
All I Want Is Everything kind of has that like they did have a rock element and they could be aggressive when they wanted to be.
Yes, they got
Uh,
crunchy at moments. There's moments where
yes.
you're like, okay, there's some guitar crunch there.
So I think for whatever reason, however these guys work together, because it does sound like Manning and Sturmer wrote together, even
They
though
did.
I do think there's stuff that's maybe credited to one or the other. Um, I don't know. I just to me, these are if I can't find any, I would there's nothing I can say bad like oh, I didn't care for this song or I like everything I've heard. Um, it's just maybe the way I kind of view these is, and I think I've even read this, so I don't know if it's what's being put in my head is like Belly Button to me is fantastic, but I know when I read them talking about Spilt Milk, they kind of consider that their masterpiece. Well, you've only had two albums come out, right?
Right,
So
right,
it's not like the Beatles, where maybe someone would say Abbey Road is their masterpiece, but you've had all these albums before it to work up to this point.
right,
Um,
right.
I think maybe Spilt Milk has a little more pizzazz to it, maybe the production value or just what's added in the production. There's it's maybe more expansive than Belly Button. But in terms of the song craft, the playing, because I know they brought in studio musicians, I think, for Spilt Milk, where Faulkner, I think, did a lot of the guitars and basses. And on the first record. I think
Yes,
on
it
the
did.
second record, it was Lyle Workman, John Bryan, did a lot of the studio stuff on the guitars. I just think it doesn't, you know, I'm going to be wishy-washy. It doesn't get better than these two records. It just doesn't.
No, I can't, we're just gonna sit here and gush because it's basically like I couldn't agree more. I mean, Belly Button to me, there's just really not, there's nothing to your point, there's nothing where you go, oh, I don't really like that song or that
Right.
one's kind of weak. There's not a weak song on it. And even songs that I like wasn't sure, like I can't really, I'm not sure if that one was, oh my God, I forgot how good like we doing the homework for this. I was like, oh, like things like Bed Spring Kiss.
Yeah.
Like I love that track. Like that is just such a like sleeper track. It's
It's
kind
a
of
sleeper, and it's such a different atmosphere than any of the other songs on the record, right? It's a complete, like, it's kind of stepping away a little
right,
bit, but yet it works perfectly.
but it just for me it's just a phenomenal track, and it's late in the list. It's late in the playlist,
Yes.
late in
Yep.
the album. But it's very, and even Calling Sarah. I mean, Calling Sarah is a great way to end the record. I mean,
Yep.
and the fact that they start with Man I Used to Be, which is sort of like a weird way to start the album. And
I'd
like,
agree.
now it's kind of strange. It's almost like mellow way to start the album, but it's kind of brave in a way too. Um, and, but yeah, I just, yeah, I really, to your point, I just feel like it's just a phenomenal album. It's a great debut. I mean, they really not, they nailed it. And you listen to the demos and their demos aren't that much different. I mean, this is almost like the demos are, this is like a little bit of a, you know, what's those shrined up version of the demos,
Yeah.
you know? And then to your, like you said, Spilled Milk is kind of like really on steroids. Like they really went crazy with Spilt Milk,
Agreed.
where they said that they felt like every idea that they had, like every crazy fancy idea they had went into Spilt Milk. Like they just did everything. They
Yep.
didn't hold back at all. You know,
And it sounds like maybe they were experimenting a bit, and I'm sure, with the production and the producers, hey, I'm here because they always talk about, I'm hearing something, and you've got that additional input, whether it's from the musicians or the producers, because there's a little more going on, I think, around the songs in Spilt Milk. The song structures themselves are, I don't think it gets much better than Belly Button, but I just think
mm,
there's just more. We're going to add a little background voice here, and we're going to add a little shaker here.
right?
If you listen in headphones, there's so much going on in these songs that it's, stuff you might not have picked up on for years. I mean, I'm sure you have. I've had these for years.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you go back and listen to them, you're like, oh, I don't remember hearing that. So
yes.
that's great stuff.
All these little touches, yeah, these little production touches that are
Yeah.
like all of a sudden you have this trilling banjo going, like, what is happening right now? It
Right.
sounds like the Beach Boys. It sounds like Smile or Heroes and Villains or something. And I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people talked about Queen. A lot of people
Oh
brought
yeah.
Supertramp, uh,
Yep. ELO.
Yellow. Yeah, there's Beatles, of course. You know,
Manning uses a lot of
mm,
the keyboard motifs that you'll hear Supertramp right away, like his little
that yeah that the
stabbing
Roger
stuff.
Hodgson thing. Yeah, exactly. So Spilt Milk, really quick, just a rundown real fast. It's second album. It's their second and final album, released February 9th, 1993 on Charisma again. Recorded April through September in 1992 in various studios in Los Angeles. Um, and before they did this album, they were getting I mean, they were getting noticed, and they did a song on Ringo Starr's
Yep,
record.
that's right.
Yeah, so they collaborated with Ringo Starr, which is pretty cool to be working with a Beatle.
And they're in the video, I think.
Are they?
I
Okay, they're in
believe
the
so.
video.
Go check it out. I think they're Andy and Roger are both in that video that
Oh,
Ringo
that's
Starr.
hilarious. I didn't know that. Okay, so and then they also, of course, also another royalty rock that Brian Wilson. They did some stuff with Brian Wilson. Apparently, nothing came of it, but they did record with Brian Wilson. They worked very hard on this record. It went over budget and it was behind schedule. Not shocking, really. Like
Right.
listen to the album, it's like it's just we were just talking about that. It got to 164 on Billboard 200. The two singles were "Ghost" at number one and "New Mistake," which I both of those songs are I can't believe neither of them, especially "New Mistake." I think "New Mistake" is just such an amazing song. I mean, it's one of those songs you listen to. I wish I would have written that. That is just
Yeah.
awesome.
Wish it was mine, right?
Yeah, it's
Because
so
I
good.
had actually picked up this, Tom. This was like a little uh two CD singles that came out. So it had Ghost at number one, All Is Forgiven, and then it had four songs that were on the album: Watching the Rain, Family Tree, Worthless Heart, and Ignorance
Oh,
is Bliss.
nice, nice.
So yeah,
Okay.
kind of cool. And I'm sure that's on that box set that we talked about. But
Yes, all these. I think they took all of these songs, got them all on the box set.
yeah,
So, which I can't believe I don't own that. Like, I
I
don't.
know.
They just go like go buy that, right? I don't know if I think it's kind of. There's probably not a lot of them out there, but
I think it's big
probably a
money.
lot of money. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, but that's just yeah. So I mean, this album, unfortunately, spent a lot of money on this album, and it didn't really perform. Unfortunately, like it just like we said, it got released in the middle of the grunge explosion. I mean, 93 was grunge was everywhere. It was Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Soundgarden. It just that's all that was happening at the time. It was all grunge, just Screaming Trees, all of those bands.
Yep.
I mean, I remember I was there, and it was just Smashing Pumpkins. It was Jane's Addiction. It was all these bands were like this whole new wave of music had come in and just taken over. And these guys were just, they were they were different for the time. They were always different. It was always like they're a little, and it takes time and attention to listen to these records, right? You have to
Oh,
really
yeah.
be like invested. And I don't know that people were in the mode, right, to listen to something that was that dense and that,
Probably not.
at times it gets pretty. The only thing I would say about the only like slight criticism I have is that sometimes it gets pretty dense and it's like, whoa, there's a lot going on here. Like things like joining a fan club. It's like there's so many ideas packed into one song, and part of me like loves that and respects it. And there's other part that kind of goes, the average Joe might listen to that and go, this is like too much,
Too much.
you know?
Little overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I think, but that's one that kind of has that rockier edge too, that might have fit better at that time. Obviously, it didn't because
Right.
it didn't
Right.
go anywhere, but that might have been something. Maybe that was one, because I love New Mistake. Like
New-
you said, just that's another. If I'd put that as why in New Mistake is just incredible pop songs. And
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
you're talking about with the density, that the lush hush, the opening, that's kind of like the lullaby that kind of takes you into the
Yeah.
album. Again, a strange opener.
Weird opening. Right. Exactly. A weird
Uh,
opening, which most people, if I would listen to that and go, where's the song? What's happening? What's going on?
and then I think, because I've read about where I guess Sturmer was uncomfortable being kind of the front guy. And so I think
Yes.
you get a
Yes.
couple things here like Sabrina Paste and Play-Doh, which I think Roger's singing most of that one.
Yeah.
Uh, so maybe at that point, maybe talking about maybe not shifting things, but putting a little more here, giving Andy a break or something. And it may depend on who wrote the song too, or who was the main writer. But like what I was talking about before, you said Bed Spring Kiss. To me, Russian Hill is the Bed Spring Kiss of spilt milk.
I was gonna say that. I was
Okay.
literally gonna. That was coming out of my mouth. That was the next thing I was gonna say. That's so great. I love it. Yes, I feel the same way. Russian Hill is like the sleeper track on this
Yeah,
record. I agree.
absolutely. But I get a lot of that when I listen to these two records. I'm like, I'll hear this song, like, like I said, New Mistake to me is the That Is Why of this record.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, and it's not that they sound similar. It's maybe more the attitude or the atmosphere of the songs and the way the songs are coming out. Um, I don't know. I mean, obviously they had a style of writing together, but you say that, and I'm like, there, there's a lot of, it's not like it's samey at all. I mean,
No,
these
it's not.
songs are very different from each other, yet when you listen to them, like I think if they put something together now and it came out immediately, you'd say that's Jellyfish. Like,
Right. Right.
I just think they have that sound to them.
Yeah. Yeah. They like I agree with you. Russian Hill was like. I mean the there's something about it's so different from what they usually. It's very acoustic.
Yeah,
It almost has like a West Coast acoustic vibe from the 70s almost. But it's very melodic as well, and it's very like evocative. It's kind of got a mood to it,
right.
and it doesn't break the mood, which is really kind of unlike them. It's cool.
And that's hard to do because sometimes something like that can kind of put the brakes on a record, right? Like you hit a
Right.
song like that and you're like, ooh, and it's obviously a little bit about placement and where things are in the track order. But like again, and I hate, like I said, I hate to be a homer for this band, but there's not a bad track on this record to me,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I really think that this band, these two records are excellent. Both of them, both of them are excellent, and they really never got their due. They just
No.
didn't get their just desserts, man. They did not get. They put a lot of work in, and they seemed like everything was there. They were on a major label. They were putting out videos. They were touring for a year. They were opening for Black Crows. They were opening for World Party. They were doing all the right things, and just for some reason, I mean, although, I mean, there is still a dedicated, there's a cult following
Oh,
of
yeah.
like there's definitely a cult, and that's kind of like the power pop thing, right? It's like Big Star is the same thing. It's like there's a cult for Big Star, right? It's like not
Yeah.
even knows that band, but the people that know them like love them to death. And that's kind of the similar with
That
Jellyfish.
was the Alex Chilton, right? His big
Yeah.
star.
Alex
Yep.
Chilton and Chris Bell.
Because
Yeah.
what's funny on that, Tom, being that you're mentioning that, is I believe on Belly Button, the bass player for Red Cross, and I don't know if you know them, they
Mhm.
come up a lot in these power pop band discussions. They used him playing bass on two or three tracks. I'm not sure why Faulkner wasn't on those, but apparently Red Cross was one of those bands that was like power pop, had that, and they used this guy on their record. So
Yes,
kind of funny.
yes. They had some, yeah, they were Red Cross is definitely one of the power pop bands, and especially I think it was in the 90s or
Yes.
so kind of like with Teenage Fan Club, there was sort of all
Yeah.
those bands.
Right.
So yeah, but anyway, but yeah, so this band is just these albums are both amazing. So I mean, really, like you said, the painful part is trying to pick one. I mean,
I'm going to let you go first.
all right, I'll go first. I'll go first, and it just comes down to what you listen to more. At this point, it's like, just what do I listen to more? And for me, it's Belly Button.
Okay.
I don't know why, but Belly Button always, it's always the album that I go to more. But that being said, man, I listened for, like I said, doing my homework for this episode. Ooh, Spilt Milk is just, like you said, it's just there's a couple. I mean, there's a couple of songs, New Mistake and Russian Hill and go and Glutton of Sympathy.
Yeah.
I mean, those three songs are like phenomenal. Like probably could be, I want to say better, but like almost at a different level than stuff on Belly Button. So it's just whatever mood you're in, really,
True. And I'm
Whatever.
going to add too much, too little, too late to those three because
Okay.
that's
Okay.
another one that just gets me on this. It's just another one that's just to me is perfect.
Yeah.
And just to be a contrarian, I will go with Spilt Milk.
All right. Great.
But that being said, I do know what you're saying. Like if you said Eric put a greatest hits together, I'd just put these two albums out. I'm not eliminating any tracks from either one of these. So, and
True.
that's rare. That's rare, Tom. Like
Yeah,
think of
that's
the bands that you love. There's always a track that you might be like, nah, there's
yeah.
really nothing I don't like on these records. And that's total. That's just, we're both being honest. We're just having a discussion. I love these records. I've always loved them. And it's kind of my left field. As much as I like pop, it's not something I go to all the time, but I was almost excited when you text me and said, "Hey, we'll do this in another week or two," and I've
Mhm.
I've been on a binge, so it's been a lot of fun revisiting these.
Yeah, sometimes the homework is fun,
It
like for
is,
these
yeah,
episodes, you're like, oh man, I'm enjoying this.
absolutely.
And this was one of those weeks where I was like, oh, I'm enjoying this homework because it's man, these guys were great.
They really are, and I don't know if we met. It's weird how Andy kind of disappeared. And what's funny is when my daughter was somebody clued me into this. I don't think I figured it out myself. But when my daughter was little, somebody said, does she watch the Disney shows?"
Hmm.
And he was writing music for the Disney shows.
That's
Some of
what I
them.
heard. That's what I heard. Yeah.
I can't remember, and I know he's worked with some other people. I think he's done some production stuff, and Roger Manning did, I think it's like Imperial Drag, right? And
Yep.
him and
Licor-
Dover did that, so
yep.
they went on
Licorice
and did some other
Quartet.
stuff.
Yep. Licorice
Licorice
Quartet's another
Quartet,
band. Yep.
correct.
Yep.
So he's been active, and you and I kind of had a back and forth. I would encourage people, if you like these guys and you haven't listened to them in a while or looked, there's a couple really cool videos, and they're put out by a producer. I can't remember the YouTube channel, but you and I had that back and forth where it's Roger Manning is sitting down with and I can't remember the producer's name, but they're basically going through the whole album, and they've got the mixing board, and they're kind of talking about the songs and who was responsible for what. And it's just, if you like this band, I thought they were very interesting. You get a lot out of those interviews.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and it's great. It's really, really. I mean, he keeps saying not to be a fanboy, but he's like, I mean,
Exactly.
it's okay. You can fan out. It's okay. Like you can be a fanboy because these albums deserve it. And I mean, it's great that he sits down and goes through and with him. It's great that Roger
Right.
does that. And like you said, it's kind of strange that Andy disappeared. He was in a band called Puffy Umi. So what is it? Puffy Umi,
Yeah, it's a Japanese, right? It
Japanese
was
band for a while. He produced their album or something, wrote for them or something like that. And then he, like like you said, he did cartoon music and Disney stuff, which is
which you
lucrative.
can hear in this,
It's
right?
lucrative. Yeah.
Yes, but you
So
hear it in their music,
yes, you do. You
the
kind of hear
Jellyfish
that.
stuff, right?
Exactly.
Which
Exactly.
Baby's Coming Back, might go watch that video, and you'll see what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. So yeah, and but yeah, it's interesting. You kind of wonder if maybe someday, who knows, maybe someday they'll somehow, it'd be cool if they ever did something
I
together.
did read Fences Were Mended.
Okay.
Um, not that it was a bad split, but I think they kind of looked at each other and said, "You're going this way and I'm going that way. The records aren't selling."
Yeah. Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
had started out as very good friends. I think they even knew each other back in high school. We're
Yes.
talking about Andy and Roger. So,
Right.
it kind of went from like this to this. And apparently they didn't talk for many years. Um,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I had read that, they kind of had reached out to each other, or Roger reached out to Andy, and maybe a handshake and everything's
Yeah.
good, but who knows? It would be something for sure. I'd be very interested to
That
hear
would
that if they
that
would
would be exciting to hear to if they did. I mean, who knows? But even if they don't, it's okay. That we still have these two records,
do.
and and I love Jason Faulkner's stuff too. By the way, that's like I love his solo stuff. He's done a lot of great stuff. I mean, when he came into the band, he thought he was going to be writing. He thought he was going to be writing songs, and I guess Roger told him, "Yeah, yeah, you'll come on in and we'll write together. Come on in, bring your songs." And Andy was like, "No, I didn't agree to that."
Yeah. And I think there was an apology there too. I do
Yeah.
think at one point Andy and Jason kind of talked, and hey, you grow up. Because I think, I remember Roger saying like he was like 23, 24 when they were recording Belly Button.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
So, you
So they were
live, you
young.
learn,
They were
right?
young. Yeah, they were young, and that's young time. That's a young age to be, on a major label doing this major record. I mean, that's a lot of pressure, and
Sure.
they did a great job considering all that. I mean, so yeah, if you don't know Jellyfish, you got to go check them out. It's essential, and it's really essential.
Yeah.
Uh,
And, you never know how things are going to hit people. But like I said, to me, if pop is your thing, I don't think it gets much better than these two records, no matter who's doing it.
so true. So true.
Great,
That's
great stuff.
so true. I think that's a great way to end it. So there you go. There you go. So thanks, Eric. Appreciate it as always. Thank you for
Anytime, Tom.
um,
That was fun.
always a blast. It's always fun. So yeah, go crank some Jellyfish. And I always have to say, hit like and subscribe if you like what you see, because it helps the channel. I mean, Subscriptions are, it just takes 1 second to hit that subscribe button. So, and it really does motivate. You're talking about this with somebody else. It motivates you to make more videos,
It's going, right.
it just does. So anyway, thanks again, everybody. And we will see you next time on Curless Mania. Take care.